A global namaste to you all. Welcome to yet another live stream from the Hindu Academy team. My name is Nishit Kotak. We are thrilled to have you here today as we celebrate the birthday of one of the most revered saints in Hinduism, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. Sri Ramakrishna was born on 18th February in 1836, and his life and teachings continue to inspire millions of people around the world. So today we are honored to commemorate his birth anniversary by discussing a fascinating topic. Is Ramakrishna the most superior avatar? So Sri Ramakrishna was a mystic, philosopher, and a teacher who had a profound impact on the spiritual and cultural life in India. He is considered by many to be an avatar, a divine incarnation who has come to guide humanity towards enlightenment and liberation. But the question remains, is he the most superior avatar? So join us today on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram channels as we explore this topic and delve into the history, teachings, and legacy of Sri Ramakrishna. So folks, we want to hear from you too. Please like, follow, subscribe to our channels and share this live stream with your friends and family. The more people that join the conversation, the more vibrant the discussion will be. Don't forget to participate in today's discussion by adding your questions, thoughts, and comments into the chat area where you're watching this live stream from. So let's celebrate the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans together. And to get started, I'm going to play a little video, which will be all around the focus topic of today. And then we'll come around to discuss this topic after the video. Enjoy this.
Apart from people in Bengal, hardly anyone knows Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. Why, in your opinion, he is important personality to study? And why did Swami Vivekananda call him Avatar Varisthai?
Okay. You see, in fact, I ask myself, how come this great master, a great modern spiritual master of India, remains unknown in India? Apart from people in Bengal, rest of India perhaps they have not even heard the name Sri Ramakrishna. There are so many other personalities that people talk about, modern personalities, but Sri Ramakrishna is hardly ever mentioned. So as a youngster, I said, why? Why is this so? Why is this person ignored and not being given full dignity he deserves? And I answer is as follows. You see, this man did not go out to promote a sectarian movement. You require a sectarian movement to promote yourself. He was not bothered. Another thing is, ordinary people only like magic and miracles. And this man was not interested in promoting any magic or miracles. And Hindus say, oh, unless there's magic, we can't relate to him. The third reason is this. If you notice, most of the modern personalities well known in India are those people who give boons. You worship me and I'll sort out all your problems. Just come and sit at my feet. I'll sort you out. You can ask for your health issues, your wealth issues, your social. I'll solve everything for you. This is standard way modern personalities like to promote themselves. For an ordinary man, this is what they are interested in. They don't want anything higher. This wants their material status to be preserved, their health to be preserved, their social standing to be preserved. So that's what they're interested in. So this Ramakrishna doesn't appear at all interesting at all. That is another reason. And the most cutting thing that you said is this. How come this Vivekananda, a very sober, sensible individual, calls him Avatar Varisthaya? That means the most superior avatar. You say, but he's nothing like Ram and Krishna and Buddha. So how can we call him Avatar Varisthaya? People say, this is too much. He's perhaps exaggerating. He loves Ramakrishna so much, he's exaggerating. He's going over the top. To the contrary, let me tell you. Swami Vivekananda, a great master, modern master, said, there is no way I can do justice to what this Ramakrishna stands for. You know what he said? He said, I'm not fit to tie shoelaces. That is the grandeur of this man. In fact, he would hardly talk about Sri Ramakrishna, his teacher, in his lectures. He said, the reason is very simple. I will not do justice to him. So even the great Vivekananda recognized the dignity and the great power that flowed in this personality and was shy to talk about him because he will do injustice to him. This is reality. In fact, at one time in USA, when he was giving a talk about his master, suddenly he stopped halfway and said, no, I'm going away. I want to finish the talk. Why? He said, I looked at the audience And I could see there is no way they can relate to the purity, the speciality of this personality. So I was wasting my time. So he says, better switch off. So this great Vivekananda, why did he call him Avatara Varishta? Let me tell you, Manish Pai is very important. You see, when you look at all the previous avatars, they're wonderful. We love them. You know, Ram and Krishna and Buddha, we love all these avatars. We relate to them still, and wonderful, nothing wrong with it. But what has happened is this. Over thousands of years, the stories that go along with Ram and Krishna, etc., have been polished up. They've been given extremely pure, pristine colors. So we think they come with 4 arms and, Shabk and Chakra and Gada and all that. That's how we view avatars. So we have lost track of the real human side of an avatar. I'm telling you that when Ram was going in the forest, he was not wearing silk clothes. Who's going to do his laundry there? He was wearing, leather, skins. And you say, I can't show Ram like that and Sita like that. And you see, we have polished it up to such an extent we can't relate to an ordinary person, this spiritual giant. Unless they come with this external glamour, we can't relate to them. This is the weakness of the Hindus. So they're stuck. And do you know why we become so worked up? You see, the previous avatars really talked about a message suitable for the Indian subcontinent, for India, for Hindus. This one is a real giant. The message he gives is not just for India, Hindus. It is international, universal, genuinely, every religion says we are universal. Here is a man who is giving, if you like, a rubber stamp to universality of the deeper vision that comes from our tradition. This is the modern vision, if you like, the most contemporary vision of spirituality seen in India. It is not just meant for the Hindus or India, it is meant for the greater world. That is why this Vivekananda, this sober man, had no choice but to say Avatara Varishthaya. This is the first avatar that is, if you like, truly international. His message cuts across all the religious boundaries as well as all the social and cultural and country-wise boundaries. It's a very universal message, very dynamic. And yet, because he's not doing magic and miracle, he will not fulfill your boons. Suppose you say, I pray to you, please make sure I get more money. He will give you nothing. Test him out. Nothing. You get nothing. The only thing you can get from this avatar is you say, I want to be spiritually awakened. He'll say, yes, you're in the right place. Anything else you ask from him, say, more wealth and health and this, he'll say, get lost. This is a reality. So this is why this avatar is the most potent, the most contemporary vision of his spirituality, the most comprehensive vision of spirituality that came out of this modern avatar. In fact, look, when Vivekananda was asked, he said, if anything good has come out of this lips, this is Swami Vivekananda. He said, give all the credit to my master, Ramakrishna. I am just waffling. The rest of it is my waffle, said Vivekananda. See how much respect and love he had. So he could easily claim this Ramakrishna is Avatara Varishthaya. And I fully agree with that. The more I study this Ramakrishna message, the more I'm thrilled. I see the versatility of this lovely message that has come out of this individual. So I'm going on because I love this man as well.
Fabulous. So folks, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who are just joining us for the very first time, welcome to this live stream broadcast from the Hindu Academy team. It's my pleasure, to be here today with the team as we discuss the life and the works of one of the most revered saints in Hinduism, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, as a renowned scholar, as a renowned saint in Hinduism. He is somebody that we really want to explore a little bit further. We've seen some information in the video. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask the team. Let me introduce the team. We've got Manish Pai, Sita Ben, Vijay Bai. Welcome to today's broadcast. So far our discussion has been a little bit illuminating and insightful from the video. And I look forward to the Q&A session just now here with our esteemed panel of judges or experts here on Hinduism. And I would like to invite the viewers to share their questions, thoughts, and comments in the chat area on whichever live stream platform they're on. So like we said, the legacy of Sri Ramakrishna has inspired millions of people around the world, and his teachings continue today even to influence spiritual and cultural life for many Hindus. It's an honor to have an opportunity to explore his life and work with you all today. So let's get started with the question and answer session. So let's get started with Sita Ben. We all know how much J-Bai had a great affinity for both Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. Would you be able to share with the viewers what was Sri Ramakrishna's early life like?
Yes, I mean, his life was divine right from the beginning. So right from his childhood, he was able to hit the highest spiritual experience. He was not an ordinary individual. He was divine right from the beginning. In a way, you could say, in a way, he is just the personification of this principle of spirituality. There was no ego, there was no nothing else. He was just pure spirit in human form. And there's a very beautiful experience he had as a child, where he was just walking through the paddy fields, and there were some very dark black clouds because a thunderstorm was coming, and he saw a flock of white cranes flying past over this very black dark sky, and he found this such a beautiful sight that he went into the highest spiritual experience. Just at the drop of a hat, he was able to go into the highest spiritual experience, something that we spend lifetimes struggling to get a glimpse of, this tiniest glimpse of this spiritual experience. He was able to just fall into it just at the drop of a hat, which is absolutely incredible. And he had absolutely no desire for anything worldly, anything material. Even in his school, he wasn't too bothered. He didn't like maths, which I quite like because I don't like maths. So he didn't like to sort of have all of this, sort of have a normal childhood in that sense. He was a very divine individual without any sense of ego, without any sort of qualms about himself. He was divine right from the beginning. And I think it's a really beautiful message, because throughout his life, you can see the dynamism, the powerhouse that he is. Because as Dad said in the video, he's not just restricted to people of the Indian subcontinent who can benefit from his message. It's a message which is so incredibly relevant for the world today, because we live in a very globalized world. We don't live in isolated little pockets like we used to hundreds of years ago. The world is all meshed together, and there's a great deal of conflict in the name of religion. So there was a real need for a personality like Sri Ramakrishna to come on the scene and reconcile, tie up all the loose ends, and say that all of these different religions, which have been living in isolated pockets so far, can now be united and say, yes, they are all leading to the same destination. So it's a very beautiful and very relevant and a very global message that he has for the world.
So I was just going to say that, before we move on to the rest of the Q&A session, it would be appropriate for us to just understand that, whenever you talk to J-Bai about Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, you would get charged up. But what are your sort of things that you remember that made him really charged up? What are some of the things he really connected with the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna?
Yes, right from the beginning, ever since I've been born, I've been exposed to Sri Ramakrishna, because that was Dad's lifeblood. And even right from my childhood, Dad put a picture of Ramakrishna in my cradle. So right from the beginning, he sort of exposed me to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, and I feel incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to be exposed to the teachings of such a dynamic individual. So right from the beginning, Dad would always sort of tell me stories of Sri Ramakrishna's life and his messages, and he has lovely, beautiful parables which are so suitable for children to learn about spirituality, and which I now say to my daughter as well for her bedtime stories. So right from the beginning, what the very special thing about him is that he doesn't require any sort of elaborate language to express the highest spirituality. If you look at the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, his language is very elaborate, very condensed, and very sophisticated. Whereas with the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, he is able to present such high ideals, such high teachings in the simplest of languages, in a way that even a child can understand it. And I think that's something that Dad really loved, and he wanted to sort of bring this message of spirituality to not just me as a child, but to all other children in the community. And that's why he set up these classes to start with, a little class called Vivekananda class, which he started. So it's really beautiful. The messages that he has are so relevant to the world today, but also easily expressed to children as well. So I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Fabulous. I mean, I can almost just see Jay sitting next to me, all getting animated when he gets, really enthusiastic with his topics. So yeah, I can see why. I'm looking forward to seeing why he got so charged up with this personality. Vijay, next question for you. How did Sri Ramakrishna become interested in spirituality? Sitaben shared some of his spiritual experiences, but could you share some of his earliest spiritual experiences and how he became involved in spirituality?
Can I just say that I think he was born spiritual. There's nothing that he came to him. I mean, if you believe in the reincarnation, then I think the spirituality of so many births that came into culmination in this one avatar. So we're immensely lucky. I mean, Sita explained one example when he was very young in the fields that he just saw the birds and he saw the divine in the birds and he just kind of fainted. But so many other examples of Ramakrishna Paramahansa's life. There's one I remember as well that, they used to do village plays in those days and they did this play on Shiva. So the main actor somehow couldn't make it or fell ill. So okay, let's try and get, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and they got him, Gadadhar was his name at that time. And then they said, okay, you can become Shiva. And he goes, okay, no problem. And he stood. And he became so still. And the play, because based on spirituality, he went into a trance immediately. He could see the divine. And at the end of the play, people had to carry him out. He was so stiff and so much in trance, they actually pick him and carry him out. But the thing is, his whole life is like that. I mean, as Sita mentioned, he wasn't bothered in studies. If you give him an image of, if you give him some clay, he'll make the most beautiful image of Krishna or, of God. So it's not a question that he discovered spirituality. He was innate in him. He was actually born with the spirituality. So in many ways, we're very lucky to, have that personality in our lives. There's so many other examples in his life. Yeah, someone intensely spiritual from day one. That's all I can say to that. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you. So, Manish, here's one for you. So we're told about the incidents where Sri Ramakrishna met a wandering monk called Totapuri. And under his guidance, he was able to attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the highest spiritual experience mentioned in the Hindu scriptures. Can you share a little bit more about this, experience and what it means for somebody to achieve it?
Sure, thank you, Nisid Bhai. Yes, it's a wonderful story of Totapuri and Sri Ramakrishna. When Totapuri came to Dakshineswar, Sri Ramakrishna already had vision of Mother Goddess, and he was in constantly discussion with Mother Goddess. He used to be able to talk to Mother Goddess. So he had already this vision, and he was highly spiritual. And when Totapuri came and he saw Ramakrishna, he said, oh, this person is ready for my teaching of Advaita Vedanta. And he asked Ramakrishna, are you interested in learning Advaita from me? And Sri Ramakrishna said, let me go and ask my mother. And he went to the temple and asked Mother Goddess Kali, shall I learn from this man? And Mother Goddess said, he's come to actually teach you. So sure. And they started, actually Ramakrishna Paramahansa before started, he took a sort of a monastic vows from Totapuri. And Totapuri, he sat down with Totapuri to meditate. And Totapuri just said, okay, just sit down and meditate like this. And he tried to meditate, but the Mother Goddess's image used to come to him straight away. As soon as he tried to meditate, the Mother Goddess would come. And Totapuri said, this is not helping. You have to, get over the image of Mother Goddess to go through that. And Sri Ramakrishna, after some effort, he was able to, cut through Mother Goddess's image using his knowledge, Gnan, I guess. And he went into the Samadhi, deepest Samadhi, and he stayed like that for almost 3 days, and people were wondering where he is, whilst he was shut down in this small hut in meditation. And when he wasn't able to come out of that state, Totapuri started shouting loudly in his ear, Om Tat Sat, and after a while he was able to revive Sri Ramakrishna. So he had this experience of Mother Goddess, Sagun Sakara experience, and with Totapuri he was able to experience the God as a Nirakar Parabrahm, as a experience of Brahman, and Brahman being everywhere in everything. And with both this image, he was able to see that God can be seen as Sagun Sakar in images of Goddess, as well as Nirgun Nirakar, and you could have both this kind of experience, and they are all same God experience. And he was able to give this, it wasn't just him learning from Totapuri. Later on, he was able to give this experience of Mother Goddess to Totapuri, and Totapuri had this experience, and after that he went away. So it's a wonderful story. I think Jay Bhai has narrated this story in one of the videos. Please do watch it. It's wonderful to see the culmination of the Sagun Sakar into Nirgun Nirakar in this story. It's wonderful.
Manish, you really explained it very well. And I even had goosebumps on my hand, because this sounds like an amazing experience you have had. And I know it's difficult to put it in words. It's something you have to experience. So what an amazing experience that must have been. Sita, how did Sri Ramakrishna view different religions?
Yes, so obviously he loved the idea of spirituality, and he saw that spirituality is such a vast, such a broad concept that it cannot just be restricted to one particular way, because humanity has got such a variety of different, we come from very different starting points. So there is a need to have different religious angles, different religious viewpoints. And what he said is he noticed that there was even within Hinduism, there were so many different pathways, God with form, and so many different forms of God. There was God without form. And then he looked beyond that. He saw that there were all these other religions like Christianity and Islam, and he saw that there was a need to reconcile them all. And it's one thing to just have some flowery words to say, oh yes, they all lead to the same destination, but he needed to prove it. So what he did is he went through all of the different approaches, not just within Hinduism, but he also then went and looked into Christianity and Islam and found that actually they do lead to the same destination. For those few days, he wouldn't even think about the Mother Goddess. He would be so immersed in the idea of Christ, or immersed in the practices of Islam, that he was able to actually experience it. And because he is such a spiritual powerhouse, it doesn't take him long to reach the jackpot. For us, it takes lifetimes and lifetimes to even have a smallest glimpse. But with the personality of Sri Ramakrishna, he is able to just immerse himself in that spiritual experience. And in a very short amount of time, he's able to say, yes, this destination is the same. This way of Christianity comes to the same conclusion as this way of Hinduism or this way of Islam. So it's absolutely incredible that we've not had a personality like this ever in the history of humanity. So it's a personality that we can never underestimate.
Amazing. It's like having a radio. Until you tune into the right channel, you won't be hearing. Once you hear it and you hear the same music across all the channels, it doesn't matter what channel you're using. It's the same music. Amazing, brilliant. What were some of the key teachings of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and how did he teach his disciples and followers?
So I think that's quite a big question, actually. But the thing is, one of the main teachings of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, of course, the idea, as Sita just mentioned, of seeing God in multiple myriad forms and ways. And the beauty about this is not just that you say it. The question is the experiences. And Sita mentioned this is a very unique thing, because we have so much kind of conditioning in our lives from the day we are born in a certain way, that we only see God in a particular way. It is very difficult for us to imagine how somebody else would actually, see God, because the whole upbringing will be different. So it requires tremendous discipline, tremendous, focus to think differently. And Ramakrishna Paramahansa actually could do that. He, as Sita mentioned, he would immerse in that lifestyle. So if he wants to practice, when he wants to see Christ, through and practice Christianity, he would become a Christian in every possible way and achieve that. And that's a living proof that, that God can be seen in multitude of ways. I mean, one of the things you learn about, which I really like, is if you read his Gospels of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, his Gospels, they're so simple and so beautifully written. Anybody can understand them. Even a little child can get that message through. And that just shows there's something very special about that. And as Jaybai mentioned, how do you know somebody is so intense and spiritual? You know from what he speaks, what comes out from his sayings. This person is very unique and is a new message, and you see that in his Gospels. So in fact, his teachings are so universal, and that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not linked to a particular sectarian movement or sectarian way. It is universal in nature. So there's a couple of things we can see about Ramakrishna's teachings. One is that not only does he teach about universality of the divine, he also actually experienced it as proof, first-hand proof. And that's very critical. People just say that, we as Hindus say, yeah, we are pluralistic, all these are equal, same. Fine, that's just saying something, just words, right? When it's not my words, it's Arnold Toynbee's words as well, that he said that he actually experienced it firsthand and proved that. And this was his message to everybody, even to his disciples. I mean, it's not a coincidence that, Swami Vivekananda, when he met Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he actually was already learning about all these language, all these kind of religions. So what Ramakrishna showed him, in effect, he actually buttressed his point that God can be universal and can be seen in a multitude of ways. So that's all I can say in short. But also he was very practical, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, in the sense that he had, few disciples, and he knew every disciple really very deeply, intricately. And one disciple said, look, you can't do this, you have to do this. I said, but otherwise it's something else. Because he's trying to get everybody to get better, become better human. So whatever weakness he had, he would strengthen them. So he understood that everybody is different and everybody should be treated differently so as to make spiritual progress. He didn't just say it, also with disciples, he was like that, right? So it's you have to read his stuff to really understand. Anyway, that's all I can say, but yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, there's so much to discuss and so much to explore in this vast topic. But one of the things people want to know is the backgrounds that you have both got. So what's the background you've got, Vijaybai? What does it mean?
How do you mean background? Sorry.
The virtual background.
Okay, that background is the Belur Math. And that was the center which was built by when the Ramakrishna Mission was established. Initially, when the Belur was built, the Vivekananda had a struggle because he didn't really want to, show off, because the whole idea of Ramakrishna Paramahansa is a universal message, not a sectarian movement. But nevertheless, I think a lot of people said we should have at least some sort of base. It's not a big building as such. It's a very nice, beautiful building. It's not a grandeur building, but just practical building, a nice building and very beautiful. And it's got very beautiful grounds. And that's where the Ramakrishna Mission actually is established in Belur Math today. And they do, as you know, they do a huge amount of work in India. Again, it's done basically under the radar. You won't even know if you haven't heard of it. But the work is tremendous. The amount of schools they run in India, I think there were 250 centers, I think in India and maybe more overseas. All kinds of, activities, camps, school, and all done in a very humble manner. So you never see any razzmatazz and wow, all this PR, nothing like that. But if you know, basically.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a good chance for me to bring this topic out and give them a little bit of a credit for the work that they do. Manish Bhai, here's a question for you that I know you're really going to enjoy this one. What are some of the key messages of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa? Or rather, what are his key messages when it comes to Bhakti Yoga?
Bhakti Yoga, wonderful. So he, when Ramakrishna came about, the idea of worshipping God through image was under tremendous pressure because of, English had recently taken over India, and they were pushing through Christian ideas, and the idea that God can be worshipped through images was really challenged at that time. And you see that in the movements that sprung up in North India. Dayanand Saraswati set up Arya Samaj, which talked about going back to Vedas and worshipping, God through all these fire ceremonies and doing that sort of worship and not believing. And he actually challenged, Dayanand Saraswati challenged worship, image worship also. And in Calcutta, where Sri Ramakrishna was, Kesav Chandra Sen started a movement called Brahmo Samaj, and that again went back to Nirgun Nirakar, or Nirgun God, God without, linking to God through without images. And here is Ramakrishna Paramhans came out, and he was able to experience Mother Goddess through that image worshipping of image. And with him, he reestablished the faith that God can be reached using the images. And that was his specialty, that he was able to use multiple pathways to reach the ultimate, and was able to explain to God that, as everyone is different, the way they will reach God will be different. So he was able to, I think there was a sadhu called Jatadhari who visited Dakshineswar temple, and through him Ramakrishna Paramahansa was able to worship image of what baby Ram, and he was able to experience him as well. And all these wonderful things happening, and you see the real bhakti pouring out of Sri Ramakrishna, and he used different bhavas of bhaktis. He stayed in Radha Bhav, and he actually dressed like Radha, a woman. And he was worshipping Krishna in that state as well. So all these different vows, he reached God through those vows. So he, saw that bhakti is one of the major pathway of Hinduism, and we cannot ignore it just in, moving to modern times. It is still the pathway that most Hindus love.
Fabulous. Sounds like a man with a conviction who will not be swayed. He knows his path and he's going to stick to it, no matter what other people say. Sitaben, so what has been the impact of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings on Swami Vivekananda?
Yes, so it's very interesting when you look at the life of Swami Vivekananda, early life. He started off, as a child, loving all of these images of gods and goddesses. He was totally devoted to it. But I think it's a phase that all of us eventually go through. As you grow up, you start questioning, you start thinking, is there any truth behind any of this? And as he started becoming a teenager and becoming a young man, he started querying everything that he had been taught, all these gods and goddesses. Is there any reality behind it? And what he did is he went around asking all the sort of spiritual leaders around him in his time, asking them, have you actually seen God? You talk about God. Have you actually seen God? And unfortunately, none of them were able to give him a clear answer. And he was veering more and more towards atheism. And actually, I think it was one of his professors that he was studying under, and he was talking about how it's like to have a spiritual experience, a mystical experience. And he said there is a personality who actually has had a mystical experience. And Swami Vivekananda was drawn to this, and he said, I must go and explore this. And he went to Sri Ramakrishna and asked him the bluntest of blunt questions, which he had asked to all the other spiritual leaders of his time. Have you seen God? And he was fully expecting him to say, oh, God is some airy, fairy, floaty, fluffy thing, and you'll get there one day, and give some waffle. But Sri Ramakrishna was direct to the mark. Swami Vivekananda was direct to the mark in his question. And Ramakrishna blew his socks off, because he told him, yes, I see God, but I not just see God, I see God more clearly than I can see you. You look like a little fuzz to me. I see God as a real living, breathing person. I see God as the Mother Goddess. And it completely blew his socks off. And even the fact that Sri Ramakrishna is able to transfer this dynamic spiritual experience to Swami Vivekananda just through a little touch is absolutely incredible. Not only is he able to have such powerful experiences, but he's able to transfer it just by a simple touch. And there's that beautiful story of Sri Ramakrishna just touching Swami Vivekananda gently, and then all the walls and the whole room started to disappear, and Swami Vivekananda, he was completely shocked. He said, "Oh, I've got a mummy at home." And then Sri Ramakrishna touched him back, and then all the walls sort of came back and everything came back to how it was. So it's absolutely incredible that not only was he able to have that experience all the time, it's not just like a fleeting, oh, for 30 seconds, oh, I had a little experience. He is living in that experience. He's got the Mother Goddess standing next to him 24 hours a day, living and breathing. What more of a spiritual experience can you get? And I think another very incredible thing is that whenever anybody mentioned the name of a god or goddess or something about spirituality or religion to Sri Ramakrishna, he would disappear into this incredibly deep spiritual experience. And it was hard for him to sort of hang on to his body. And he needed to have these sort of ways of bringing himself back into his body. He would say, "Give me a sip of water, repeat something in my ear so that I connect back to my body." Because once you've had that deepest of spiritual experiences, it's very hard to hold on to your body. Actually, if you think about it, it's a real personal sacrifice to hang on to your body, because why should you want to hang on to this fluffy little body with all of its pains and aches and all of that, when you are at the jackpot, you're at the highest of high spiritual experiences? It's actually a tremendous sacrifice to then hang on to your body and then be able to then be a trumpet to the rest of humanity and say, look everybody, look, there is something incredible here. I'm hanging on to my body so I can express this to you. So I think that's the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna, and Swami Vivekananda fully understood and appreciated that. And he became the trumpet of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. He went to the West and he presented this tremendous spirituality and sowed the seeds there.
Amazing. Now I can see you're in full flow on this topic. So I'm going to pass the next question back again to you, which is, how did Sri Ramakrishna inspire and guide Swami Vivekananda?
So he showed him through experience. So the beautiful thing is Sri Ramakrishna had he had a handful of devotees because he wasn't really understood or appreciated in his time. And what he did is he was able to read into the character of each of his disciples and was able to sort of spoon feed spirituality in a way that would suit that particular disciple best. So for some, it would be more devotional based, as Manish Bhai said, people who love to think of God with form, he would present spirituality in that mode. For people like Swami Vivekananda, he was very sort of, he loved the idea of God with form, but he loved the principle-based idea of spirituality as well. So he was able to tailor spirituality to the needs of each of his disciples. And with Swami Vivekananda, obviously, he loved the principle-based idea of spirituality. But the thing is, Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to not underestimate the power and the beauty of actually seeing the Mother Goddess. So he blessed him with this experience of being able to see the Mother Goddess, with this beautiful story of Swami Vivekananda having a lot of trouble. His family was in a lot of financial trouble and crisis. And he went to Sri Ramakrishna and said, "What can I do about this?" And Sri Ramakrishna his answer was always, "Go to my mother, go to the Mother Goddess, and she will help you." And Swami Vivekananda went to the Mother Goddess thinking, "I must ask her to help my family financially." And he went up to the temple, and you go to a temple as a normal human being, you just expect a statue to be there or a picture. But with Swami Vivekananda, he was blessed by Sri Ramakrishna to have the divine vision of the Mother Goddess, and to actually see the Mother Goddess. You feel like you're asking for nothing in the face of the Mother Goddess. How can you even bring yourself to ask for money for my family? It just feels so completely irrelevant in the face of this divine power. How can you then ask for marbles? You have to just completely forget about the experience. So I think that's the incredible thing, is when you are faced with that divinity, all of your material troubles and worries seem to fall away. And Sri Ramakrishna was able to show Swami Vivekananda principle-based Hinduism as well as personality-based Hinduism.
Brilliant. Sounds like a very strict, firm, yet beneficial teacher. So Vijay Bhai, here's another one for you. What was Swami Vivekananda's role in spreading Sri Ramakrishna's teachings?
Oh, major role. I mean, he gave it to the world. I think we could realize its impact is tremendous, because when he went to the West, Swami went to the West, for the first time, he presented this comprehensive idea of Vedanta. And I think that is I mean, they had never heard of something like that before, because, they're very kind of based on the monotheist idea of God, only one way of God, basically my way or the highway, in really. As Vivekananda, who actually explained them, look, actually, that's not how it works. The God is immanent everywhere, and it can proceed and can be seen in multiple ways, because in a way it's a pluralistic religion, Hinduism, and he sent that message out to the world. And it's a very powerful message, because for the first time, anybody, you name anybody in the world, take somebody from the tribals, from Indian Americans, anywhere, for the first time, this message was coming that their pathway is right for them. That is very important, especially in this day and age when people are, fighting in the name of religion. The message from Vivekananda was very universal. Actually, his first speech shows you that, with a very famous phrase of the different rivers flowing down from different pathways, yet they lead to thee. That's a very powerful message, because, quite often, because we have grown up in a very pluralist tradition, we kind of get it very understood, very easy to get that message. But in the West, it wasn't so, because we know that church was very controlling. People are not allowed to, do paganism, all that. But that one big message, that first speech that Vivekananda gave, opened the world a different way of looking at the divine, and that's very powerful. And that comes from Ramakrishna Paramahansa directly. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he experienced it and he actually taught it. So this is a direct message Vivekananda took and gave it to the world. I just so wish that the whole world study Vivekananda, because then we would have less what in the name of religion. Then you understand that basically Vivekananda's message, that's how powerful his message is. So that's one of the biggest messages you can say that Vivekananda took to the world, is the idea of pluralism, and the idea that actually God can be pursued in a multitude of ways, and they're all valid. That's the main message, yeah.
Fabulous. I mean, we've got so many questions left. I'm going to switch over to a rapid fire style now, so that we can cover some more of the questions. So, Manish bhai, how did Swami Vivekananda view the relationship between himself and Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa?
That's an interesting question. Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda was very reluctant to talk about Ramakrishna Paramahansa, because he felt he would do injustice to him. But he was chatting with, so that was that. When Ramakrishna was passing away, he passed on, it said, all his spirituality, spiritual powers to Vivekananda. And one of his disciples was talking with Swami Vivekananda, and he said, I wish I was there in time when Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa was there. And Vivekananda said, and you see me. And Jai Bhai has also said that, so Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Vivekananda is like a different side of the same coin. Swami Vivekananda is actually a continuation of Sri Ramakrishna, but in a kind of modern way. So I believe that after that, once Vivekananda reached that stage where he was teaching, I think he probably saw Ramakrishna Paramahansa within him.
Fabulous. Now, speaking about Swami Vivekananda and his teachings, what was the significance of Swami Vivekananda's visit to the West now, carrying this message?
So I mean, Swami Vivekananda spent some time actually wandering around India and actually seeing the poverty that the Indian people were going through. And he went with a very sort of practical idea in his mind. He said, I must go to the West to see if they can help my people, because they're going through such tremendous sufferings, such tremendous poverty. Let me see if I can help them by going to the West. Let me sell my spirituality to the West to see if they can then come and help my people. So he went, with tears in his eyes. He was so in love with his people. He wanted to do something for them. And this is the way that he felt he could do something. So he was sent off to America. His fellow disciples didn't think practically, as Dad has said many times in his videos, they didn't give him warm clothes for the heavy, harsh winters of North America. They gave him silk clothes and packed him off, and he went in the ship to America. And actually, what was really, really profound is that in the West, we have, all these incredible, we're relatively wealthy, we're comfortable in our lives, but what's really sort of missing in the West was this sort of spiritual depth to our lives. And that is what Swami Vivekananda actually brought to the West. He sort of brought this whole new sort of vision of spirituality, which, the West was in a way ripe for, because, we've sort of fulfilled all the sort of material needs, but life is very hollow without any sort of spiritual foundation. So Swami Vivekananda came to the West because he saw that the West was also ripe and ready for accepting this message of spirituality. And here in the West, he planted the seeds. And in a way, it really sort of is starting to sort of take growth. Now, it takes time for these messages to come through. I mean, it's so incredibly powerful, but in a way, it's not quite fully appreciated at the time that he is delivering these incredible lectures across the West, in America and also in England. It takes time for those seeds to grow. But I think hopefully as, the time keeps rolling on, the seedlings will start becoming plants and flowering in the West. And unfortunately, the way things are, the Indian people, we'll only really appreciate what we've got. We'll only appreciate the spiritual gems of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda if we get a sort of rubber stamp from the West. We've got this very sort of colonial mindset. If the West say, oh, this is amazing, this is absolutely incredible, then the Indians will say, hooray, that is ours. So in a way, we need to sort of get out of this colonial mindset. We need to appreciate the spiritual depth of these personalities without having to have a rubber stamp from the West. But yes, I think that's really beautiful, is that he was able to synthesize the East and the West and bring spirituality to a place where it was really needed.
Now, I was supposed to leave the broadcast about 15 minutes back, but I'm hooked onto this. And unfortunately for me, I still have so many questions to go, but time is not on our side. So I'm going to ask one last final question. And then we're going to wrap it up. I'll conclude the topic. We get onto the Q&A for the viewers' questions, and then we can end the session very shortly. So, last question, and this I can ask all three of you to say it in your own words very quickly. How is the legacy of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Swami Vivekananda influenced the spiritual and cultural life of India and the world?
Sita?
Yes, I mean, so I think it's actually wonderful because, India is, really recognizing the powerhouse that is Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna. We recognize it through, Swami Vivekananda through the National sort of Youth Day. We really give a tremendous amount of importance because, in a way, all sort of civilizations go through cycles of becoming very materialistic and then having to revert back to spirituality. I think we are now sort of at that tidal wave with India especially. We've lived through this very secular period and we are thirsty for something spiritual, and it's personalities like Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda who can quench that thirst. Could you find Manish?
Yeah, all I can add is that I think one thing that I'm really so grateful to Ramakrishna Paramahansa Vivekananda is this. As Manish Bhai added, that at that time when Ramakrishna Paramahansa was in India, there's a tremendous push to negate all the other Maya beliefs of India, saying, like Keshav Chandra Sen or Brahmo Samaj, or God is monotheistic. In a way, the push from the Christian world was so powerful at that time that he had felt that need that we should actually have God as a monotheistic. So he was taking out verses from Upanishads and whatever to make him monotheist God. And similarly, we had this Dayananda Saraswati. What Ramakrishna Paramahansa did actually, he said, no, hold on a minute. Everybody is divine, everybody is spiritual. Everybody will find God in their own way. And when he said that, not only did he say that, he actually proved it by experience. In a way, it gave tremendous dignity to every human being, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your stage in life is. And that one thing really gives me tremendous respect for Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He gave dignity to everybody who was pursuing spiritual in their own particular way, without being told, oh, my way is better than the other way. That's one of the greatest things that he did. And Swami Vivekananda carried that message through as well. And that's the beautiful thing. Manish bhai?
Yes, just one thing to add with the legacy is with Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans, one of his disciples, Mahendranath Gupta, was able to record his conversations, and that's now presented in Gospel of Ramakrishna. And this is for first time somebody who's talking spirituality from experience. His words are recorded, well recorded, and in kind of diary format using the dates, etc. So in the first time we have a record of somebody actually putting down whatever he said, and that is wonderful to see. And when you go through that, you see how serious he was about spirituality, how serious he was about it. He was not interested in anything else but spirituality and God, and that's all he talked about. And that's wonderful to see. It's I think treasure house of spirituality that's presented to us, and anyone who is interested in spirituality should read and see if it makes sense to them.
Fabulous. So folks, there is not enough time to cover this topic. We could spend easily another 1 or 2 more sessions and still not do it full justice. But we must move on in the interest of time. And so for the viewers' questions, we have a question from Will Vanesh. He says, I am an agnostic person, but the idea of God and self-realization looks very promising. I would like to personally experience it. What would Swami Vivekananda's advice be for someone like me? Sita Ben.
Yes, it's actually very healthy to be an agnostic, because Hinduism is not all about shoving ideas down your throat and forcing you to believe in things. You must think about things for yourself. And Swami Vivekananda was very keen in ensuring that came across. Make sure you think about everything. Don't just swallow it blindly. So what Swami Vivekananda is, in my humble opinion, what he would suggest is that he would say, find the words of any sort of person who you think is enlightened and look at their words and try and sort of live those principles, live that life. Don't just read it for the sake of reading it. Try and imbibe what they have said. And if you find that actually it's transforming, having some kind of transformative power to your life, then know that you are on the right track. If you find that nothing has happened, that is totally fine. Perhaps, you're not at the right wavelength, or maybe you need a little bit of time, but eventually that spirituality will come back to you. And it's one of those things that spirituality will come knocking on your door when you are ready. In a way, your master will come to you, the person who is suited to you will come to you, and you will start to realize it for yourself. And you have to, essentially, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You must try and have that spiritual experience for yourself and not just read about it.
Fantastic. Vijay Bhai, here's another question for you. So this is from a viewer called Perceptions, or watching us on YouTube. And he's saying that Raman Maharshi said that the self could be realized through constant effort. It is the shortest way to realize God. Could you comment on this?
It's true. I mean, I'm a big fan of Raman Maharishi as well from South India. And actually, he did say that he said it requires constant effort. But the thing is, that's how life is, because, in life, you will always get a lot of things thrown at you and always divert you from your goal, spiritual goal. There's materialistic issues, family issues, everything. So it is one of those things. And I think it's why he said it was really practical. It's a very practical way of looking at things. That requires that constant effort is actually the best way to make spiritual progress. Of course, there are people who are naturally spiritually enlightened, but even for them, they have to focus. I mean, it's very rare that we have somebody like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Raman Maharishi, who are in a certain environment where they are naturally spiritual anyway, in an environment where they can just pursue spirituality. But for most of us, it is quite an effort. Whereas for people like Raman Maharishi and Ramakrishna Paramahansa, it's the other way around. It takes a lot of effort for them to come at a human level. It's always in that higher plane. So that means the other way around. But most of us, we have to make the effort to self work towards ourselves. Yeah.
Fabulous. Manish Bhai, we have another question for you. This is from a viewer watching us called Essie Navarro. And this is a really good question, because it tells me this person is trying to use the rational faculties, trying to question the normal things. There's no status quo here. They're trying to figure out a path for themselves. The question is, what is the difference between having a faith without any religion and practicing a religion based on its doctrines, but not necessarily having faith?
Very interesting question, Nisit Bhai. Yes, if you look at Sanatan Dharma, there is no boundaries. You cannot say what is within Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism, what's outside. It's very hard to determine. Even the concept of Dharma is very open. And that should be our approach, that let's not be just confined to one pathway or one way of thinking. We should be, open, and there should be freedom. And this is what's seen in India, that people were discussing, Buddhism, Jainism, all these pathways. They are actually called ism now, with the introduction of English, and that sort of streamlined that this is different part of Jainas and this is part of Buddha, etc. But in India, when that environment of Sanatan Dharma was there was no boundaries. People were free to choose their pathway, and that is the right way. If you start with a blank slate and you look at what appeals to you and follow that pathway, that is wonderful. But it is having a faith and just trying to choose a pathway is way to go. But in a religion, sometimes you can be confined, and you get confined into doctrines and dogmas so much that you lose the sight of spirituality. That can happen. But I think it's to focus on what is the true spirituality, and try core of spirituality is the way to go. I hope I'm making sense. Vijay Bhai, you may want to chip in.
No, I agree with you. I think the key thing is that it's okay to have a faith without a religion. The faith, in the sense, you have faith of something higher. You believe there's something more to you than just your mundane body. That's the faith you need. And as you mentioned, Manish Bhai, a practice based on doctrine is okay as long as it doesn't defy rationality. You have to realize that you are your own boss, as Manish Bhai mentioned. So doctrines are good if they help you. If they don't, discard them. Don't be obliged to follow doctrine just because a majority of people follow it. Don't do that. Yeah. So I like the idea of having faith with no religion, in the sense that just have something faith in yourself that there's something more to you, and then work from that basis. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, what Swami Vivekananda would say clearly is that, you have faith in yourself. That's the only faith that really matters. Feel empowered because you are the spirit and you can achieve anything. And that's ultimately all that matters. Forget about all the rituals and all the fluffy bits around a religion. Forget about that. As long as you have faith in yourself, that's all that really matters.
Well, I agree with everything, and especially with Manish Bhai's analogy of having a blank slate and you drawing on it. But then you always remember that look at what's on your drawing. Don't look at the fellow next person and say, his drawing is better than mine. Let me follow that way. Do your own thing. So, folks, just to wrap this up, I want to say thank you to all our viewers for joining us today as we explored the fascinating topic of whether Sri Ramakrishna is the most superior avatar. We had to look at his life, his teachings, and his works. And we hope that this discussion has provided you with some valuable insights and deepened your understanding of Hinduism. We invite you to continue the conversation with us by suggesting the topics for the next sessions. Your feedback is essential for us to tailor our content to meet your interests and your needs. So we welcome your ideas and suggestions, and we promise to take them into consideration when planning out the future sessions. Also, I would like to encourage you all to stay connected with us on YouTube, because over the week, we do release new content regularly. And that's the first place you can catch up with it and stay up to date with our latest content and continue your learning journey with us. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our channels and share them with your friends and family. Finally, I'd like to invite you all back again next week, Saturday, 2 o'clock UK time, for our next session on Hinduism. So we promise to bring you another enlightening and thought-provoking discussion. So thank you for being part of our community and helping us to spread the knowledge and wisdom about Hinduism. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and thank you to our team here who ably steered us through the discussion for the day. Thank you, Manish Bhai, Sita Ben, and Vijay Bhai. Before I end, I'd like to share a quote from from Sri Ramakrishna. And this is the quote of the day. As from one bar of gold, ornaments of various forms are made. So it is the same God that is worshipped by different nations under different names and different forms. So, I think this was his key message, that there are many pathways leading to the same destination. And what an appropriate way to end the session for today. See you all next week on Saturday, 2 o'clock. Bye-bye.